Hello there, Hans. Alright, let's have a look. So, the diagram illustrates the various steps necessary for the production of tea. Green, black, or oolong tea are the only types, not are, and, okay? And oolong tea are the only types that can be made out of fresh or dried leaves. Good. When these types of tea are made out of dried leaves in order to make scented tea, they all follow the same production process of drying, followed by scenting, and finally cooling. Very good. Okay, however, I would have put this at the end, okay? Alright, and I would have said overall, alright, like this, overall. Because it's a really, or even better, or even put this as overall, okay? But you can't have a conclusion, okay? A conclusion is what you reach after arguing. And we didn't argue, we only reported. This is purely objective. So that's why a conclusion is not correct. We have to say overall or in summary, okay? And both of these are valid summary statements or overall statements, okay? So let's go. So we've got this here. This is in sharp contrast to the process. Right, here's a tip regarding starting new paragraphs. We cannot start a new paragraph with a demonstrative because I don't really know what you're talking about. What this refers to is way back in the other paragraph. So we need to start off being crystal clear, okay? So what could we say? The production of fresh tea leaves is shows a sharp contrast or is considerably different from green, black, and oolong production. Full stop. Okay? Now I know exactly where we're going. So that's just one tip to improve your style. So the process is described in the flowchart for the earlier mentioned tea types. The process, that's redundant, isn't it? We don't need that. Of course it's described as your whole task. So we just delete that, okay? Be careful of redundant sentences like that. So let's move on. Although the first step in this production process is sorting and cleaning for all types, the following types are quite different for each type of tea. Oh, the following steps, sorry, my mistake. While producing white tea, while producing white tea has only 2 steps of steaming and drying after the common limb step. Green, black, and oolong tea have different. Okay, so I'd rephrase this slightly and I'd put the while in the middle, just for comprehension. So, producing white tea has only 2 steps of steaming. That doesn't make sense. Producing has only. The production of white tea has only 2 steps. Steaming and drying, comma, steaming and drying. After the common limb step. While green, black, and oolong tea have different and more subsequent to accomplish before the final product can be obtained. Okay, just putting while in the middle makes it clearer, and that's not a consistent use. We have to say the production of. Okay, then there's no conflict with the tenses. Producing white tea has only 2 steps. Yeah, it just sounds a bit clearer, that's all. Let's see. Withering, check your spelling. Withering, for example, is a mandatory step in the production of black and oolong tea, but is only optional in the process of making green tea. Okay, good. Then we would finish with the conclusion, or not the conclusion, the summary. So overall, the diagram shows the various steps in making tea, which can be more or less complicated. I would prefer this one as your conclusion, as your summary. Overall, the diagram shows various stages of tea production. The most complex are green, black, and oolong, and the fastest and most simplest is green tea. Oh, I can't remember exactly, but something like that. The most complex is this, and the simplest is this one. Here's another tip as well. Use superlatives in your task 1. Okay, we'll get points there. So the most simple or the most simple process or the most complex process. Also, the highest point on the chart is this. The lowest group can be represented by blah, blah, blah. All right, let's go. Although it is often thought that companies ought to move from urban regions to the countryside, this phenomenon has also some downsides that need to be mentioned. Good. On the one hand, there are important advantages for companies having their industrial activities in rural areas. Okay, we don't need the Saxon genitive there. Okay, it's plural. One example is the availability of ground to expand on. Excellent. While cities are known for the fact that every squared inch is already used for transport or buildings, the wide open space of the countryside is a perfect opportunity for expansion. Excellent. An additional point is that cities are too crowded, and thus the massive traffic congestions are a non-issue at the countryside. So hedging are often, I wouldn't have said non-issue, are often irrelevant, uncommon in the countryside. Fluid, with a D, fluid traffic circulation, which is of course of tremendous importance for companies, will not be a problem in rural areas. Okay, no Saxon genitive. Here we've got redundancy. We've got this sentence, which is basically saying the same as this sentence. Okay, and in good academic writing, every word counts. Okay, and you've got to make it, a good academic writing is succinct, concise, and quite direct. It's not fluffy, and we don't repeat points that are not or that have been made previously, especially in the same paragraph. So just be careful of that. On the other hand, doing business in the countryside composes some major issues. Environmental care, for example, involves also silence and protecting particular area. Protecting particular areas against industrialization. The disappearance of woodland and precious pieces of nature. No, zones of nature is probably better. Or areas, but we've already said areas loads of times. So zones of nature will become a fact if we do not conserve them consistency. Okay, plural. Well, two of them anyway. Another worrying trend of widespread industrialization is the absence of space to enjoy private life. Good. Employees, no Saxon genitive there, need to have the opportunity to relax after work, which is impossible if the only view out of their houses are industrial buildings. Not bad. Not bad. So good work here. We just need to be careful of redundancy and this crazy new tendency for Saxon genitive everywhere, so be careful there. In conclusion, widespread industrialization can be advantageous, mainly from an economical point of view, but it also has some serious drawbacks for the private life of people. Fantastic essay. Task response we nailed. We did really well. It's cohesive and coherent, apart from this little bit of redundancy here. Your lexical resource is excellent, and your grammar's really high level as well. I think you're going to do well, Hans. But you must remember, once you finish your writing, if you've got time, and if you don't have time, make time to check for mistakes. Okay? Just go through, and there's three ways. First one is you can just look for the major issues where you've lost points on previous essays. So it might be Saxon genitive. So you just go through your work looking for Saxon genitive, starting at the end and then going backwards. The next way is just to go through and read it through, like in a whispering voice to yourself, and just checking for spelling mistakes or the wrong word choice. Okay, then the third way is probably more detailed, which is more for the comfort of your own home, where you check for issues of redundancy, parallelism, and all these higher level writing skills. Alright, Hans, hope you get this back in time, and I hope you have a fantastic exam. I'm pretty certain you will. So all the best, and let me know how it goes. Take care.